Some men will say I meant to kill my brother. The gods know it is a lie, but I will hear the whispers to the day I die.
The tent is quiet when Dunk enters, not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that feels controlled, measured, as if every sound has been pushed down so it doesn't disturb something fragile underneath. Prince Maekar is seated, still armored in authority, even without the battlefield around him. He looks composed, still, royal, but the air in that tent carries the weight of a dead brother. This is not a grieving man shouting into the night. This is a prince deciding how history will remember him. Maekar doesn't begin with rage. He begins with structure. Princes are dead, he reminds Dunk. Blood has been spilled, and it began with a hedge knight striking a royal son in a moment of defiance. His voice is steady, almost cold.
Fools will say Baelor would not have let it down.
He doesn't raise it. He doesn't need to, because accusation delivered calmly feels more deliberate. He frames the tragedy as a chain reaction, one reckless act leading to challenge, challenge leading to trial, trial leading to death, and in that framing, he places Dunk at the beginning of it all. This is power in its purest form, a royal defining the narrative. Dunk stands in silence, absorbing it. A hedge knight with no name, no banners, no legacy, being told that princes died because he chose to act. At first glance, the imbalance is obvious. Maekar is the judge, Dunk is the reason, but something subtle begins to shift when Maekar says the words he cannot avoid. It was his mace, his blow. He did not know it was Baelor beneath the helm. He believed he was striking an enemy. In the chaos of the trial of 7, armor erased identity, steel erased certainty. He admits it plainly, no trembling voice, no dramatic collapse. And that restraint says everything, because this is not confession seeking forgiveness. This is acknowledgement without surrender. For a brief moment, authority gives way to truth. The prince who accused now stands inside his own responsibility, and yet, he does not fall apart. Instead, he speaks of whispers.
But I will hear the whispers to the day I die.
Not judgment from gods, not punishment from law. Whispers. The realm will talk, the realm will remember, and what they remember will not be accident. It will not be chaos. It will be simple. Maekar killed his brother. That is the story, and stories are stronger than facts. In that realization, something irreversible happens. The crack in his armor isn't sorrow, it's awareness. He understands that intention no longer protects him. He can explain the blow 1,000 times. It will not matter. His name will carry this, and names in Westeros are everything. But Maekar refuses to let the burden rest entirely on his shoulders. He turns back to Dunk. If you had not struck my son, none of this would have followed. It is not shouted. It is not hysterical. It is almost logical. Cause and effect, action and consequence. This is where guilt and pride intertwine. He accepts that his mace ended Baelor's life, but he will not carry the moral chain alone. He refuses to be the sole architect of tragedy. That refusal is human, and it is revealing, because Maekar is not pretending to be noble here. He is not cleansing himself through honesty. He is distributing weight, sharing blame, trying to reshape the narrative in a way that does not leave him standing alone in it. Across from him, Dunk answers with something far more dangerous than anger. Certainty. He says he would act the same way again. He struck Arryn because a girl was being hurt. Because it was wrong, because someone had to stop it. No apology, no regret, just conviction. And in that quiet exchange, the power in the room tilts. For the first time, Maekar is not speaking down to a lesser man. He is confronting a kind of moral clarity that cannot be ordered, cannot be commanded. This is the kind of conviction Baelor admired. And Maekar knows it. That knowledge stings, because Baelor died defending Dunk's right to stand on that conviction. In this tent, two different types of strength face each other, one rooted in bloodline and command, the other rooted in personal code. Maekar can command armies, but he cannot command belief, and that is where the real tension begins to build. The accusation has been spoken, the confession has been admitted, the blame has been shared. What remains is something deeper than anger. It is legacy. Maekar understands that from this day forward, he will be remembered through a single moment, a single swing of a mace in the dust of battle. He cannot undo it. He cannot clarify it enough to erase it. All he can do now is decide how to live with it, and that decision begins to form in an unexpected direction. He speaks of his son, Egg.
Will you have him?
Not as a prince in silk, not as a child of privilege, but as a boy who needs shaping. The offer emerges almost abruptly. Take him as your squire. It sounds generous on the surface, but beneath it lies something far more complex. Maekar has just watched Honor cost him a brother. He has just faced a man who stands by his principles even under royal accusation. He sees something in Dunk, something dangerous, but something real, and perhaps, in sending his son with him. He is trying to correct what he believes went wrong. Baelor believed in men like Dunk. Maekar did not. Now Baelor is dead. So what kind of men should his son learn from? This is not kindness alone. It is calculation mixed with reluctant respect. It is a father recognizing that palace comfort breeds softness, and that the world beyond banners might forge something stronger. But it is also something else. It is Maekar attempting to shape the future because he cannot change the past, and that attempt reveals the turning point. He is no longer just grieving a brother, he is planning around a legacy. The moment he speaks that offer, he accepts that the story of Baelor's death will follow him forever. What he can still influence is what comes next, and in that realization, the prince who walked into this tent blaming a hedge knight begins to transform into something harder. Not softer, not redeemed. Harder, because once a man understands he cannot escape how he will be remembered, he stops trying to clear his name. He starts trying to control the future instead. And that shift, from defending himself to shaping what comes after, is where the path forward narrows. There is no return to who he was before the trial, only forward into the shadow of it. But shaping the future requires control, and control is something Maekar has never struggled to maintain until this moment. Because Dunk does not immediately kneel in gratitude. He does not see the offer as an honor beyond measure. He hesitates. That hesitation is small, subtle, almost respectful, but in a royal tent, even a pause can feel like resistance. Dunk reminds Maekar who he is, or rather, who he isn't. He has no lands, no castle, no gold. He sleeps under trees and eats when he can. He is not a knight of renown. He is barely surviving. There is no false humility in his words. He genuinely believes a prince deserves better, and that is what unsettles the room. Because Maekar is used to men scrambling upward, toward proximity to power, toward favor, toward advancement. He is not used to someone questioning their worthiness to shape a Targaryen. For the first time in the conversation, the hierarchy flickers. A hedge knight is not begging. He is doubting himself, and strangely, that self-doubt feels more stable than royal pride. Maekar presses him, not angrily, but firmly. Princes raised in silk grow soft. They learn obedience before hardship. They learn privilege before consequence. He has seen what that produces. Aerion is proof of it. Though he never says it directly, the shadow of his son's cruelty lingers in every word. Maekar understands that power without grounding creates monsters, and Baelor, for all his nobility, could not fix that. So this offer is not generosity, it is correction. He wants Egg to learn from someone who bleeds when struck, someone who answers to hunger and weather, not courtiers and flattery, someone who stands by a choice even when princes die because of it. But beneath that reasoning lies something more fragile. Maekar cannot undo the blow that killed Baelor. He cannot cleanse the whisper that will follow him, but he can attempt to prevent another son from becoming a reflection of palace arrogance. Sending Egg away is not a sign of weakness. It is an admission that the court failed. And Maekar, whether he says it or not, was part of that failure. Dunk's hesitation forces him to confront something uncomfortable. He cannot order respect. He can command obedience. He can demand service. He can enforce law. But he cannot manufacture belief. Baelor inspired belief. Dunk holds belief. Maekar holds authority. And in this tent, he feels the difference. When Dunk finally accepts, it is not because of royal pressure. It is because he understands what Egg wants, what the boy has already chosen. That matters. The decision is not born from fear of Maekar. It is born from responsibility toward Egg, and that quiet distinction lingers in the air long after the words are spoken. Maekar watches it happen. He watches a hedge knight accept a prince not as a burden, not as a prize, but as a duty, and something shifts permanently inside him, because in that moment, he sees what Baelor saw. Honor that does not bend. Conviction that does not adjust itself to survive. Maekar is not that man. He never was. He believes in strength, in order, in discipline. He understands power, but he has just witnessed a different kind of strength, one that does not need a crown to stand upright. And it unsettles him more than accusation ever could. This is the true turning point. Not the confession, not the blame, not even the offer. It is the realization that he cannot fully dismiss what Dunk represents. Baelor died defending that principle. Maekar lives questioning it. From this moment forward, he cannot pretend that the world is shaped only by bloodline and command. He has seen what moral conviction can provoke. He has seen what it can cost. And he has felt how fragile reputation truly is. The realm will whisper. They will not debate the chaos of battle. They will not analyze intent. They will not weigh responsibility fairly. They will remember one thing. Maekar struck the blow, and that memory will shape how he is judged, how he is trusted, how he is feared. He understands now that legacy is not built on truth. It is built on perception, and perception cannot be fully controlled. That is why this is his point of no return. Before this tent, he could believe that power was enough, that authority could steady the narrative. After this tent, He knows better. He knows that a single moment can eclipse decades of discipline. He knows that whispers can outlive explanations. He knows that pride cannot silence memory. So he adapts. He becomes harder, more deliberate, more guarded, more aware that every choice feeds the story being written around him. He will not collapse under guilt. He will not seek absolution, but he will never again be untouched by doubt. The brother who entered the trial believing he was striking an enemy leaves this conversation understanding he struck his own future, and that awareness changes the direction of his life, not because he becomes cruel, not because he becomes kind, but because he becomes conscious of the weight of his name. From this point forward, Maekar does not act as a man hoping to be understood. He acts as a man who knows he will be judged regardless. That difference is subtle, but it is permanent, and once a man begins shaping himself around how history will remember him, he is no longer free to be who he was. The tent falls silent again. No shouting, no tears, no dramatic reconciliation. Just two men who will carry this moment differently. Dunk will carry it as a reaffirmation of who he is. Maekar will carry it as the beginning of who he must become. And that quiet acceptance, that understanding that nothing can return to what it was before the mace fell, is the true line crossed in this scene. Not on the battlefield, but here, in the stillness, where a prince realizes that reputation, once stained, does not wash clean, it hardens. And so does he.